Good afternoon. Let's I guess let's try to make more progress here. We can try. Uh let's see what I was just working on here before the stream. Decided to hop in. Kind of working on some of the spells here. Transmutation's gonna look a little different now. When it completes, good backdrop. There we go. So it now has like a shell that kind of disperses as things go in. Let's see. The new transmutation here, similar thing. I've got that outer shell, which I think it needs a little bit more. Here. Let's put it at like a 4. That's not what I wanted. Let's undo that. We need to go a little further down. There we go. So that's transmutation. So this would be transmutation 2. I'd say that's pretty good. And then Serenity. Oh, it keeps doing that. Concentration's broken. So that's going to be the new Serenity spell. I actually have to test this. Let's hold this out. So let's open a portal here, 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 and here. Let's see. Holy shit, that range is extreme. All right, let's reduce that radius just a little bit. Just a little bit. So I must be taking from this. Ooh. Yeah. I'm gonna get rid of this stuff. So 2.5. What's my radius? Oh. We're gonna bring this over here. Yeah, so it shouldn't be 2.5. It should be like 5, 1, 2, maybe 2.5. Actually. And the maximum amount of rifts, let's say 2. Let's put in 2. Alright, so let me adminate those up. So I'm going to open up a portal here, 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 here. Yeah, increase this a little bit. Alright, so the new Serenity spell. Perfect. Excellent. So it should erase portals within the range, right? So if I spam it here, look at that. That looks awesome. That's awesome. Throw these super valuable orbs out. Alright, cool. How many should you close? You know what? I'm just gonna put 3. I'm gonna just put it at 3. There we go. Serenity's pretty awesome now. That looks so cool. Hey, Spetsy, how's it going? I feel like the new Transmutation 2 is kind of lackluster now. You know what it is? It's because of the outer dome. It's not really It's not really an outer dome, is it? Guess let's go into the Proto Wand. I do something like this. Not really doing much, is it? Set this at false. Maybe that's what it is. I have to go back through and clean up these methods, I think. Nah, see, it kind of just got rid of it, didn't it? Doing alright, just finished some hell diving. Alright. I'm kind of stuck right now with mod stuff. I don't know what to do. So I've been I decided I'm just gonna work on random things. That's what I decided. Procrastination. I think what the problem is here. I think the problem. I think I'm hitting a particle maximum. What I think I'm doing. I think for now, you know what? This looks alright. This looks alright. Have the orb here. You know what? That actually, it doesn't look as bad as I thought. Right? Because I can do this. You could see the zone of influence. If I reduce the particles in the middle, because it is pretty tightly focused. All right, I think I have an idea what I'm going to do. I'm going to cut this out. We're going to put in an if statement, and I'll paste that in. And then I'll paste this in, and I'll just cut these particles in half. Make sure this triggers only for transmutation 1. Right, so this one remains the same, which would make sense, right? I got that. See, now there's less particles there. I gotta reduce it just a little bit more. Yeah, see, so that's what it is. There were more particles that time. I'll put this back to 5. I think that's good because you could see that the middle, like where your selection is, right? You could see that's your selection, and then the rest is just like the area, right? Although if I leave it at 10, although, I mean that, you know what, that one kind of does look better. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. Alright, I think that's as good as I'm going to get it. Oh man, what am I going to work on now? I was thinking to myself, I'm like, should I stream? Should I not stream? Normally, like, I get excited to stream because I have, you know, like, a solid guide, right? I know what I'm going to be doing. I don't know what I'm going to be doing right now. Feel stuck. I have to focus on spells. Why is it always so dark in this place? Is it like, oh, it's wintertime? Alright, so blah, 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 blah. There we go. March. But yeah, I just feel stuck. I gotta figure out what I'm gonna do with the spells. Not really getting any inspiration with the with like what I should do with spells. Because I think I just need to separate this out. Like some of the ideas that I've been seeing and getting is about a research based system, right? And like researching and how to discover things, but people are not understanding that before I do any of that, I need to figure out how you are getting these spells in the game. Right? Like that's the big hurdle right now. It's not like, well, you should do this and do that for like the research. You could, we're taking the research part out, right? How are like what do you do to get a new spell? Like what is a grimoire? Like that's the basic part I have to focus on here. Because I can always subdivide things out. It doesn't matter if I go with like a Thaumcraft 6 research, a skills-based unlock like Ars Magica. That's just how you get the subdivided things, you know what I mean? Working on that new potion system clearly, yeah. Yeah, so I gotta figure this out. You know what I should do? We're gonna pop this over. We're going to pull up a spreadsheet. We're going to take a look at the spreadsheet for spells. So, this obviously is a little outdated. But I had an idea before I took out all the tiers. Tier 1 was going to be like a general spell school. But see, the problem now is I also decided that neutral essence was going to be the main thing. So really that means in the very beginning, you'll get like Befriend Animal, Hydration, Telekinesis, Temporal Touch, and that's it. It's like one of those 4 spells. And then the idea was tier 2 was going to, or the advanced essence generation, was going to unlock like the neutral or the dark and light essence types. But it's still like tier 1. There's like a lot of ambiguity here. I gotta tighten this up a little bit. I like the idea of you making a base grimoire as you do now, and being able to craft pages and put in the grimoire. Yeah, and that's the other thing too. Like I started to talk about that, but the problem is like people need to understand like when we're talking about ideas, data needs to be saved to something. You know what I mean? It's like rolling like randoms. Like people were talking about the. How like they're unlucky, and it's like, yeah, it's not like a weighted pity kind of version of RNG that humans think exists in the world, right? Like this is true RNG, in the game. There's no like failure weighted thing to where your success is due, and each time you fail, it adds like a 5% increase. You know what I mean? So it's hidden stats tied to the player. Hello! Syricus. Hello. Well, see, I already have so many stats that are, like, bound to you. You know what I mean? Like, it's, like, for unlocking things, yeah, like, the progression would have to live on you, but I'm talking about, you want to cast Transmutation, right? And Transmutation has one version of this spell. Right, let's just say there's only Transmutation, and it's got a mana cost, right? It's got a cast time. How does that grimoire translate, to the player? You know what I mean? Like if I create a system where, let's say it's the Fireball spell. Right now I have like Fireball 1, 2, and 3. And each version of Fireball, right, it's an increase in the base damage, it's an increase in like the spell casting time. Right? So even though it's the same spell, technically it's 3 different versions of that same spell. But all that information for the spell is in a global dictionary that everyone accesses. Like everyone who uses the Fireball spell in the server pulls from that universal global dictionary of what that spell actually is. So if I create a system where it's like, okay, well, you can add pages to a grimoire, right? Like, so that information will have to lie on the item itself, right? So now I'm talking about item attributes. So it's got to have the global dictionary for the spell up here, and then I have to do sub-calculations for the grimoire to say, oh, no, 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 you have this mana page in there, right? Because that item disappears. Really what it means is you have an attribute for mana reduction, and it gives you like 10% off of whatever that global counter is. You know what I mean? So really it's like, how do I handle these spells? Right? So that's really what I need to figure out. Like, what is a grimoire? You know, like, should there be only one version of Fireball? If so, what does that mean, right? Like, so if I put Fireball into an advanced grimoire, that makes the spell like the tier 2 version? You know what I mean? Like, how does all this stuff work? Because we're like right now, when you put a grimoire in your sanctum, it literally sends that data. There we go, I got that little hair. God, it was annoying me. But it literally sends that data to you as a player, and it says, yeah, Sanctum slot 1 is, this is your spell, this is your mana cost, this is, you know, it saves everything in there. And I do that to save some calls, right? You shouldn't be checking out, you know, like, oh yeah, what grimoire slot should it be? Trying to find that position. What if that block's not loaded, right? How do you get your spell data for what you want to cast? So I need to figure out how grimoires are going to change. You get a spell cipher. Should it just be... let's pull up ciphers, right? So should it just be like, yeah, instead of, you know, Rust Orb, right? Instead of 3 versions of Rust Orb where it does like, you know, this is tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3, should it be only 1 version of Rust Orb? And then really what the spell cipher holds is just that base tier 1 version of the spell. And because damage is something that you can apply, you know, as like a bonus buff, right? So does adding like the damage paper, damage whatever in there, you know what I mean? But then like increasing the damage, what does that do with the mana, right? Because if you're starting out at like, oh yeah, this basic spell costs 4 mana, or you know what I mean? Like, and then you bump it up to tier 2, right? How does that work? Also, I'm new to this stream, so I have no idea of how it works at the moment. Yeah, welcome in. I'm kind of stuck right now, because, like, I have the way spells currently work. I have a rewrite currently that I'm doing, and then I need to, like, change spells. I just don't know. This is tough. I guess a lot of it depends on what exactly makes Fireball different tiers. It's something, well, see, the different tier specs is the fact that, here, I'll look up Fireball. Right? We'll look at Fireball. Right? Let's look it up by Grimoire, because I can get more information. So, tier 1 does 5 points of damage. It's a 4-second cast time, but it costs 14 mana. Right? That's Fireball tier 1. Fireball tier 2, it costs 64 mana, with an 8-second cast time, but it does 10 points of damage, right? So everything is enhanced, right? It wouldn't make sense to be like, oh, Fireball is 14 mana, but you add, you know, a paper of damage, and now it's 10 mana. Or, you know, now it's 10 damage, but it only does 14 mana. Why would you ever need a mana cost thing, right? The more powerful a spell should be in its base, the higher the mana cost and the cast times and everything should be to encourage you to put pages in to reduce that mana cost, to reduce that cast time, or increase that damage, right? So at that point, my question is, for a spell cipher, should I continue to have, like, you know, version 1, 2, 3, right? There's Fireball 1, Fireball 2, and Fireball 3. And then I could put Fireball 3 in an advanced grimoire that happens to have, like, 4 slots, right? 4 page slots. And then I can take, like, okay, that, you know, so I can put 2 in for mana reduction, 1 to cut the cast time by, like, 25%, and then 1 to increase the damage by 25%. You know what I mean? Like, is that the way that I should have this, right? Like, that's my question. I guess I'm just kind of stuck. But there is damage per second per mana is strictly better for tier 1 Fireball compared to tier 2 Fireball. That's true, unless you take into account the durability loss on your staff as well. Right? Like, the durability lost, and yeah, I guess, you know, and that's the thing, right? Like, how can I encourage you to want to get Fireball 3 and have it be worth it? Right? It's a more powerful spell. Yeah, it's going to cost more mana, but if you're wearing mage armor, that mana cost is reduced by 50% right off the bat. So I don't know. That's why I'm stuck. I've been thinking about it for a couple days now, and I just can't think of a decent thing, you know, a decent counter to it. Because I also have to think about, okay, I add a system. Here, let me pull something else up here that I was doodling with. Research unlocks. Here we go. So this was like my idea of like how I can have maybe either research or where you put your skill points, right? So you'll have like a general tree. You unlock magic, right? Ritual magic. And then that ritual magic would open up a new tab, and then you would see something like this, right? So you'd have ritual magic, and then you'd have your, you know, destruction, creation, balance, infusion, right? And you would kind of spend your points and or do the research in a certain way. And then for grimoires, right? So I have like a basic grimoire infrastructure, right? You make the Oculus, and then you can get like beginner's grimoires, which are going to be like these spells. But again, you only have neutral essence, so you have 4 spells to choose from. It's difficult piecing all of this together. This has been my problem. Yeah, true. I do have range, but man, let me tell you, when I had the lesser fireball spell, people bitched about the range so much on that. I made it like cost 3 mana, like a 3-second cast time. You could run and sprint and jump while casting this attack spell, but the range was shorter. It was like 8 blocks. And people were just ripping on how useless the spell was. So reducing range, like it was terrible. It was like people were just magic's useless, you know. But then again, this was on the week 1 that you could get immediately from unlocking magic, and everyone kept comparing it to like a bow and an arrow, and how the bow and arrow was like infinitely better. I'm like, well, come on, you guys have like 14 mana, you're tier 1 mage. Yeah, you know, it's... of course it's terrible. Time spent you have considered. Cast times are impactful. You don't want to be spamming a tiny spell just because it costs less while enemy attacks coming at you. That's true. That's taken into consideration since tier 1 is 4 seconds cast time, tier 2 is 8 seconds per cast for 5 to 10 damage. So it's the same DPS for less mana. Yeah, and the mana costs are going to change too. Like, I would do like a 4, 6, 8 kind of scenario for cast times. And people could also get equipment to, you know, help out with their spell haste too. Right, let's see, I have them in here. That's walk speed. About down here, spell duration, damage, stats. Oh, you know what? I never added it. I don't think I ever added spell cast time. No, I did, right there. Yeah, so I have equipment. It's the green ones. That's right, the haste bracelets and stuff. Right, so you could further your spell haste by equipping bracelets. So it's like, really, I just need to figure out, right, in this new system. Oh, I forgot to link these together. Let's get a resonator. The new resonator feels good. Like hitting F, right? Going to connection. Boop, boop. Perfect. And we'll throw it away. Hey, but you're creating all this stuff, right? You got the essence infusion going on here. Let's pull out a bunch of these. That looks cool. Right, like what do? I get to this point. I have to, it starts here, right? I have to figure out what spells you're gonna have. Like, what is tier 1? When I took out tiers. That could be lesser spells, cannot afford, be affected by stats, so 50% mana discount only works on tier 2 and above. Yeah, but see, the other part is, like, what is a tier now? I took tiers completely out of the mod. There are no mage tiers anymore. So when I'm saying tier 2, it just happens to be the old tier 2 version of the spell. There's a lot of moving parts here. This is the last thing I have to do, though, and I think the rest of the rewrite, like, the first phase will be done. And then I can focus on connecting the dots to be like, how do you unlock these things, right? Start gating things. But the gameplay loop is pretty much there. Like, you can create spells, but the problem is, you'll be able to create the neutral spell cipher because you only have neutral essence. And this is what the Runic Scroll 1 will turn into, is this guy. But with that, you are only going to have, like, 1, 2, 3, 4 spells. Because you don't have the light and the dark essence anymore. That's advanced essence generation to create those. Right? So... That's where cast time helps at higher tiers. Spell haste is percentage based. Yes, it is. But it will be overall the same reduction in time spent, I see. So no more tiered spells. Yeah. I'm getting rid of, well, I've got rid of the player tiers, right? You're not gonna have to get 50 mana anymore, and then go through the stuff to become a tier 2 mage, and now all the tier 2 stuff unlocks. I took that out because if I go with a Thaumcraft 6 research-based system, or if I go with like the Ars Magica based, Ars Magica 2 based, like you gain skill points and then you can, spec out your talent tree kind of approach. The magic tier just doesn't work. It's too restrictive, and it feels bad having like multiple different things you got to watch out for. Right? Oh, I can't create, the Devouring Void because that's considered a tier 2 mage doing that, right? And with the achievements, it's like, no, you could be any tier mage. It's just, you have to learn the obelisk first. You have to get your magic chalk, right? And then by progressing in this kind of tree, not that one, but this one, right? Then eventually I can unlock like the Ritual of Elemental Infusion, or I can get like the Ritual of, the Advanced Essence Generation achievement, or whatever. So I'm trying to make it a little more like, you got 2 mages. One decides to specialize in creating like the better mage armor. Right? Maybe the other one specializes in making a better staff. One person specializes in, wanting to create and attune to like an evocation playstyle for spells. So that's what I'm trying to do. This shit's hard. this is hard, right? Because it's like, how do I do that? Because I have things spelled out here. Before, you were going to be tier 2 mage, right? Like, if we look at, like, incantation, right? I have, like, a toolkit for incantation. Or alteration, or, you know, all of them, right? So, like, evocation, you were going to be more crowd control, you know, / attacks, right? But it made sense to give you this at the old tier 2, because then you were able to attune to, you know, a new spell school type, right? Everything having, like, 2 sets of you know, like, potencies here, kind of made it feel like there were more spells. Just don't know. I don't know how to merge all this. Timebender! Maybe your tier of spell can be determined by the tier of armor you're wearing. All the spells are their most basic, and getting better armors and wands is what makes it better, rather than the spell itself having multiple variants. Then you could do something like the Ars Nova threads to spec the armor for elements or cast time or damage. So, man, I wish I knew more about Ars Nova. Or Nova, right? So in that mod, I would have to get, like, tier 2 armor, but then my fireball spell becomes tier 2? Is that how that works? Like, let's say I have the fireball spell. Like, I guess we should think about how it would apply to this, right? Like, so I got the grimoire. Perfect. Here we go. Fireball 1, right? So I got Fireball 1. 5 damage, 14 mana. I put on tier 2 armor. That suddenly becomes the Fireball 2? Like, the spell itself gets the upgrade? And then it would have a higher... But then how would you improve the spell? I think I'm thinking of it wrong. Ars Nova, it's the book, but yeah, that's what I'm saying. It is another avenue. Look at my armors here. Fire! The Hellfire! I got a lot of neat spells, I gotta say. A lot of neat spells. Look at, like, this. Get rid of some of this stuff. Go. So that's the Archmage hat. There we go. So I got 3 different versions of my armor. The Apprentice, the Magician's, and the Archmage. Right, so, I mean, right now, armor kind of gives you more max mana, a reduced cost in your spells, some basic protection, right? So looks like I also add a reduction in cast time as well, and then I also eventually add mana regeneration to them as well. Maybe... Man. I'm thinking it would probably be a little better. Could be school-based as well. Like the armor could be school-based. I do kind of have that, actually. Just thought about it. Because I have attunement cores, which basically make, like, if you want to be a good evocation mage, then this increases, like, the damage, right? Any stats boosts, the duration of buffs or debuffs, reduces the cast time, and it's all percentage based. So just by equipping this, right, you become more proficient in that spell school's spells. put this on. And you'll see, like, I even have it to where, like, you can see the, you know, like, around your eyes, you have, like, the magic brand. I did not do anything with this person's appearance. Really, I just have to think how you're going to unlock these spells. I think that's the first thing I need to figure out. And to do that, I need to figure out what ciphers are going to kind of act like, right? Like, how do you create a grimoire? Right, so we're looking at Fireball. Fireball 1, 2, and 3. Like, should there just be Fireball? Like, what would that look like? Should it just be Fireball, and then you can put that in, like, an advanced grimoire, and then it becomes, like, Fireball 2? Right? Or should it just be Fireball 1, 2, and 3, and then you have a basic grimoire? Is it an unlock or a modification of spell 1? See, that's the weird part too, because we're looking at like Fireball. And it's just like a modification of the same spell. But I'm pretty sure I have spells that are not like that will do different things. Like, let me just verify this here. Let me take a look at all my spells. Oh, Jesus Christ, there's a lot of them. No, I think so far... Now, Fertilize just does more... Yeah, so you could look at something like Hydrate Farmland. That's an AoE. But the size of that AoE is different, right? So it's easier to take that search method and just move it to a different spell, right? And that's why I separate things out sometimes by spells. I think that may be the most extreme case, though. Right, because Shadow Step would just have an increase in range. Each one of these... Oh, another thing, too, is, like, the projectile gets bigger. Right, so for, like, Weld Burst 2, or Fireball 1, 2, and 3, the orb actually increases in size, so I created the whole separate profile to attach that other shader on to scale the size up appropriately. Barrier, no. Surface Ascent, no. Summon Light? Summon Light's different because each version of the spell Summon Light actually summons a different light orb entity. And that light entity has it has a different internal structure and it lasts a different amount of time. Are you thinking in the sense of how other magic systems were designed? I'm trying to pull from ideas about how other ones were designed, but I also have, you know, very specific things like Corpse Swap, right? It's a single type of spell, and it changes, you know, you swap positions with a corpse, you know? Like, how do you add modifiers to a spell like that? Oh, I want to test Blink. Because I added the faster cast time to it. This is... I gotta fix this too. I gotta fix this because there's no cast time here. Or no cast bar. I'd have to get the real spell for Blink. I'll deal with that later. Oh, look, I only have 4 mana because I have the Attunement Core on. It's taking 50 mana away. So I got 10, right? 44. That'd be 54, yeah. No. So that would be 44 altogether is what I had, and then minus 40. Alright, let's just take that off. Take that off. I meant to change subjects. Did you get your lawn mowed before rain came? Yes, I did. Got my damn 2 acres under 2 hours. No, I went. Yeah, I went out. All the weed whacking was done, and it's funny because like we started looking like towards the end, and I wanted to hop in the pool fast, and I look and I'm like, oh shit! Like there's a lot of dark clouds. Like they're rolling through like pitch black clouds. I'm like, this is gonna be a big storm. Let's get out of the pool. Right? Went inside and like winds picked up for a bit, and then it just like it's almost like it just parted around us. Got nothing at all. Although it was definitely rain. It's rare that it just misses us. I meant sometimes spells only have one effect, and the only things modified would be cast time, mana, and range. Yeah. You used magic, didn't you? Yes, I did. It's a new spell coming in. Called Cloudbreaker. Oh, man. Feel like maybe in the beginning. Is it so bad that you would start off like with 4 spells? Right? You unlock magic, you get your Thonic Foundry, right? You do your ritual to get your obelisk, right? You create your Arclight Furnace, link things together. And then you create your infrastructure. The first thing you can make is the tier 1 just runic scroll. Because maybe I'm overthinking this, right? I throw the runic scroll in, you wait 5 minutes, you get a neutral cipher. Then that neutral cipher can make like one of 4 different spells, right? So it's going to be either Befriend Animal, Hydration, Telekinesis, or Temporal Touch, which would be an attack-based spell. And then when you unlock the Advanced Essence Generation to get the Ritual of Corruption and Ritual of Purity, then your tier 1 general spell school spells would expand, because now you could take that scroll, right? Because you made like a Devouring Void, and I could put the scroll in here and get something completely different. Oh, and this isn't even turned on. Oh, invalid item. I already pruned that out. Maybe I should add that in, right? Because then you'd get, like, the Dark Scroll. That way you're kind of expanding, right? You find a new source of essence, and you can do something different. And then eventually you could progress and get, like, the Tier 2 version. You know, throw it in accordingly, and then that tier 2 would be able to pull from maybe this bigger pool. Although, I guess that means some of these spells, like, I would be keeping the multi-spell approach. Right? You would have Fireball 1, 2, and 3. Or at least 1 and 2. Yeah. So you'd have only Fireball 1 and 2 in this one. Channel Harry Potter. Yo, is it Harry? Hey, yo, Dur, how's it going? I don't think it's bad. Having things to strive for is nice. I don't think that's too bad either. It would give you incentive to figure out getting like an advanced form of the essence generation. You know what I think should happen? What if I do this? Tier 1. Tier 1 can be a very small pool. Like this neutral cipher that you can make. It makes like maybe 1 of 5 spells. You know, 1 of 5 entry-level spells. And then when you're in here, right, maybe that scroll's too weak. Just kind of, I think that's what I started to do here. Right, so you would have to unlock, you know, like the runic scroll too. You know, throw that in. See, now that's going to make the Umbral spell cipher. Which would be a more powerful version of things. Although that kind of reduces what you could do with the tier 1. I hate these decisions. I could make all these neutral spells too, I guess. How have you been? I've been stumped, Odor. I've been stumped. You know, I'm gonna get some life-giving water. There we go. Maybe a little water will help. I do appreciate people like talking about this. Shooting ideas over. Appreciate it. Sometimes, like, you know, I'm so close to like some of this stuff, and like I can think about, well, how is that data going to be stored, right? Like, you know, how are you progressing? I guess this is the other flip side. I could build this right now because technically people can, you know, you could do all the stuff in the mod, right? Because like I can get a stick, I could sit, like I can create wands, you know, we can clay form this stuff, you can nap all these tiles, like everything's got a recipe. I could give this to the supporters, man. And then be like, heads up, guys, you can make four spells right now. Tell me how to fix this. I could totally just do that. Give me your ideas, people. Tier 1 could also be converted to the others for less cost, maybe. Or just the fact that you have to work towards the ability to make dark or light spells is the cost. Yeah. I think reducing the options at tier 1 is fine since you are going to, as it currently is, replace them eventually anyways with the better variants of high spells. Yeah. That's part of it, isn't it, Timebender? You know, that's the whole thing of, like, should you just have Fireball 1 as a cipher, right? To get Fireball 1. Depending on what tome I put into that, which could be locked behind research or achievements. Making coffee and starting food? Yeah, I gotta think about what I'm gonna eat for dinner too. I had rice last night. So I ended up cooking some rice, put some of my favorite soy sauce in it, and then I got this Seto Fumi Furikake that I like to kind of sprinkle in there. Basically, it turns rice into like sushi, like the sushi taste. Really good. Made some chicken to put with it, but I'm kind of riced out. I don't want rice. I'm thinking more like burger now. Want a nice double cheeseburger. That's what I want. Man, rough. Sucks. Tell me your secrets, Grimoire. Tell me your secrets. Also unlocking armor to give modifiers also increases the usability of the tier 1 spells if some of them do not have higher tier variants. Yeah. But then what does that mean for, like, the more advanced stuff, right? Like, do you eventually end up with, like, a Fireball 3 because you pursue all avenues that does, you know, 56, 60 points of damage per hit? Right? Because if you can modify something at tier 1 to make it, you know, better through armor, that modification would go through the other tiers too, unless I explicitly code against it. I think I have to make an executive decision. I think I'm gonna make a decision here. So, I had the idea of making a blank grimoire. What about this? What about this? Hear me out with this. Let me get a chess. Get a chess set. Place this bad boy down. There we go. Let's get a cipher. I think I have an idea. Oh, you know what? What am I doing? We'll stick with Fireball. One, two, three. There we go. So, I think I should make different versions of the blank grimoire. That could be something that you research and unlock. And depending on what you put the Fireball, let's say in this case, into, like, you know, like just maybe the tier 1 grimoire, maybe that one doesn't have any expansion slots, right? It's just Fireball 1. You can't add any pages for mana reduction or anything else. I make another version here. Let me just grab some things here. I'll get a couple things that look good. Right? So what I would be doing in this case, you would have one version of Fireball 1, and the spell cipher would just be like the basic blueprints of the spell. There's no tier 1, 2, and 3 specifically in the spell cipher. And then I put it in like the tier 1 crappy grimoire. There's no enhancement slots on it, and basically it turns it into, you know, just regular Fireball, right? 5 points of damage, 14 mana costs, no big deal. You end up researching like the advanced tome, right? The advanced grimoire. And that may have like, we'll say three slots in it, right? 3 expansion, 4 expansion slots. And then it could take that Fireball glyph, and then it would become like Fireball 2. Right? So again, it's the same singular glyph, but because you're using a better grimoire, right? And even the grimoire could have more durability. Maybe the basic grimoire, the little flat tire thing, has like 50 durability. Maybe the advanced grimoire has 100. Maybe the ViesCraft grimoire would have 150 durability, right? Allowing that spell to last longer. Right? But at least because it would be considered Fireball 2, here, let me start grabbing some of this stuff here. Fireball, here we go. Right? So if we put it in a better grimoire, it's going to have higher mana costs and more damage, right? More cast time, but I could put in, like, if mana cost is the big deal, armor's going to help with all that, but maybe I could put in, like, 3 pages of mana cost reduction, and then cast time doesn't mean that much to me, but I can put in something that, you know, adds spell damage. You know, and those could be my 4 pieces of paper in that grimoire. And then the tier 3 version of that grimoire would, of course, make that Fireball, singular Fireball cipher be Fireball 3. With exceptional costs, but maybe this has, like, 8, 10, you know, enhancement pages that you could put in it. And I could put in a system to where maybe it's a 20%, you know, decrease in whatever it is, or, you know, like whatever it turns out to be, right? Like mana cost base decrease of like 20%. But if you add another one, right, maybe it's not 40%, maybe it's 20%, and then like half of it, you know, or it gets like reduced, you know. So you have 2 pages, right, but it's like 30%, right? So there's some kind of like dropping off, so someone doesn't fill all 8 with like haste, and then you get an instant cast spell, right? So it would encourage you to be like, yeah, you know what? Any more than 4 pages of spell haste is, you know, it's unnecessary, right? Any more than 4, you know, mana cost reductions, you know, like that's unnecessary. They're doing this or relying somewhat on the current system of having the grimoire tied to the specific spell permanently. With the tier crafted, dictating space would potentially work well, IMO. Although this sounds better, I think. Yeah, and I could put in a system too to where if you have an old grimoire, you know, like the Fireball grimoire, you could take that apart with like a chance to get some resources from it, including potentially your original cipher back, right? So you could get, you know, like if it's a fly spell, you could get fly back, right? Instead of having to like rediscover the spell, right? It would be like a deconstruction kind of thing to recycle your old grimoires. Maybe. Right, so I could morph this into different ways here, different things. I kind of like the idea of having one singular cipher. I like that idea. You could abstract the ciphers further to general range, projectile, general touch, etc., and then make one of the pages the elemental attunement. You're kind of getting into a modular kind of spell system. We're definitely not there right now. We are not there. Every spell, the way my magic system is set up, it's a big spell dictionary, right? So there's no, you know, adding damage, projectile, and fire, right, to make fireball, right? Like I asked about making a system like that a while back, when I was doing the rewrite, and people were not really for it. A couple people were, you know, thought it would be cool to do a modular thing, but when I asked them, like, well, what does Shadow Step look like then, right? What is, not everything is projectile, base, self, you know, like, and then it's like I could piece that together, but then I don't know. Unless I delay this a little further and people can help come up with some way to turn every single one of these into a spell modifier, then think of a balanced system, right? To where you could put things together, but not like infinitely, you know, in a way that makes sense. It's like, what do you do with shaders, right? If you put like Fireball, someone wants to put Fireball and like Frostbolt together. You know what I mean? Like, what shaders don't stack that well, so what does it look like? You know, like one's gonna be over the other, like how do I account for that combo? Do I have to look for that and then make a specific shader for every permutation of a spell that people would want to put together? Or do they want to go full-on Chrono Cross, kind of every element in one? You know what I mean? Like, yo, what are you working on? Hey, I am working on trying to figure out spells. That's what I'm currently working on. Yeah, eventually I'm gonna have to figure this out too. Like, see, something like this is gonna be easy. Because as you unlock things, I could just make it to where, like, you know, oh, all of a sudden you got these available, right? You've unlocked this. Oh, you got this available now because you unlock these. You know, like I can restrict this pretty easily and give you more things as you unlock things. Just the spells, man, the spells. It would help the 3 essence types tier 1 though, since you could use all the ciphers, but only with the neutral attunement, and then later unlock light and dark. But entirely fair, it's too early to elaborate for the modding API of the game. Yeah, I mean the game's got some gremlins to fix for sure. We got some gremlins to evict. Only way to see that working more seamlessly is adding a page slot 4 elemental attunement. That can only put a page in if the base spell page has elemental options. Wouldn't be applicable to spells without that page slot. So base projectile plus fire tune page turns it into fireball instead of modifying a base projectile like the other pages do. Sounds like, yeah, that also sounds like a lot of work for what, you know, to give someone the Keck W of putting self damage and fire and then like killing themselves with a fire attack. You know what I mean? Like, at what point, you know? I don't know. Because I mean, at some things it would be interesting because you would have like Shadow Step, but you know, Shadow Step, if you think about it, is kind of like a self random teleport. But what if you did like AoE and it teleported everyone, but that would fail? Well, that right there would suck because then someone could make a grief spell that they could just walk in an area and be like, yeah, I increased my AoE to the max and I'm ripping people out of town to teleport them 150 blocks away in a random direction without their consent. You know what I mean? Like, how giving people the ability to piecemeal spells together is just going to be more headache for me, because then I'm going to have server owners knocking on my door. Can I just restrict this to, you know, to have it? Or can you add a new system that prompts you for a yes, no before just, no, I can't do that. Do you get a prompt when someone does the teleport command to like teleport you somewhere? Do you get a little prompt in the base game that says, oh, the admin so-and-so is trying to teleport you. Do you accept this teleport? Like, no. Have you seen the Discord discussion in the researches? We touched on spells too. You guys are talking about the cart. We haven't even talked about the horse that's going to pull it. That's the thing. I've seen it, but I just have nothing to say because I need the basic foundation stapled together first. You guys talking about the researching and the stuff like that. Like, how, what I need to know is, I have this, the obelisk. It is creating this, right? This is the neutral spell cipher you have. You put that in here to get a spell. You throw said spell in here to create a grimoire. You put it in here to get your, you know, to cast your spell. How do I convert these spells, all the evocation, alteration, incantation, conjuration, from the old spell tiers, the new general spell tier? How do I convert these into the game? Right? Especially when advanced generation, right? Like you can't, like, it's different. You don't have light, neutral, and dark essence types right at the beginning. The light and the dark, you're gonna have to earn them, so it's considered more tier 2. Right? Like we could look at this little tidbit. Right? So this is all tier 1. You got all this, right? All the tablets. And then this is the second part of tier 1 where you are literally, you know, getting into the grimoire spellcasting, and then tier 2 is here. Right? So, but tier 1, there's some dark spells, there's a couple light spells, right? So I have to blend these two things together first. And then once I have that in, we could talk about the research stuff and actually have good conversations, because I'm there, right? Like, the spells are in the game now and they're obtainable, right? How do we restrict people, right? How do I make it to where you get these now? But I need that infrastructure in place. Got to figure that out first. Maybe magic resistance. That'd be... Eventually, I like to put maybe magic resistance in, but really, there's difference too in player magic resistance versus NPC magic resistance. It's like the fear spell. You can't cast fear on players because fear is an AI task, right? So in order to fear you as a player, I would have to convert the random running around from the entity AI task, the traverse area, point to point and having it move, to the players, their entity controls, and then to try and mimic it, right? You're making two different things, but even though it's the same fear spell. Base spell plus fire equals fireball to something like fly. Wouldn't even have that option because there isn't elemental options. Well, yeah, but at that point too, I mean, there's not a lot of elemental options to begin with. And I also have that as a ritual. And I have that as a ritual because, like, you're talking about, yeah, you add fire. How are you adding fire when this is what fire is, right? It's a small crystal or large crystal. How are you going to add this as a page to unless I add another system that would convert this down, add more steps, and then you get a fire page, and then you could put that fire page into the grimoire. You know what I mean? At what point do I just say, yeah, you have, the Rust Orb grimoire like you do now, create this ritual using fire crystals, throw the grimoire in, and it infuses it and it becomes fireball. System would essentially be the same thing that does ritual, that the elemental ritual does now. Just that putting the page in makes it fireball. Well, yeah. There. I gotta keep an eye out here. I'm a little past my time. But at the same time, why would I be adding the modifier to that and taking up a page slot when I can say, hey, right? Because you're gonna have pages for, I could do potentially range, stats, right? So if it's like spike shield or something, or the buffs, that's the stat attribute, right? So I can increase and decrease that. You're going to have haste, right? So your cast time. You're going to have mana cost. You're going to have duration of any kind of buffs for pages. So that's 5 different upgrade pages there that you can mix and match depending on the spell. Do people really want to waste one of their precious slots on fire? But then it would only be one, I actually don't understand the problem fully. Can you explain very slowly? Yes, I can. Here, let's go back over here. I'll explain slowly, and then I'm gonna have to action roll out. I'm gonna have to action roll out. So, what I need to think about is what a grimoire actually is going to be. Right now, there are 3 different tiers, right? Tier 1, 2, and 3 for magic tiers. I pulled player magic tiers out of the game. It's not going to work if I go to the Thaumcraft 6 research-based system, or if I go with the Ars Magica kind of skill point unlock-based system, skill tree-based system, right? Magic tier doesn't work, so that dissolves, right? So when we're talking about tier 1, 2, and 3 spells, that's not really meaningful anymore, right? So let's put that aside. So in the beginning, you have only neutral essence, right? This is the only thing you have. It's neutral. You could throw in the tier 1 scroll, and you're going to get just the tier 1 spell cipher. Well, the way that's going to work now is for the general spells, you have one of 4 spells that you're going to be able to choose from. Right? So, how does this whole system work? What is a grimoire? Should spells be separated out between tiers 1, 2, and 3? Like Fireball. Fireball 1, Fireball 2, Fireball 3 for the ciphers. Should it just be the Fireball, or the Fireball cipher, let's say? Right? Or the Rust Orb cipher, and then you create grimoires that can... Oh. So you create grimoires that could dictate the spell's potency, right? If I'm thinking about an upgrade enhancement system. Why is it a problem if the grimoires stay tiered? Well, then what does a tier mean? Like, what is a tier? Like, what would make something a tier 2 versus tier 3 versus you using it? You know, like, I'm trying to think, like, sure, technically, like, we could ignore tiers and just be like, well, just keep them in anyways. Which could work, but it's also going to be a little more confusing because, let's say, you get, right, tier 3 Fertilize. So, these spells here, yeah, tier 1 is kind of entry, tier 2 and tier 3. But for evocation, right, like, you're never going to have a tier 3 version of a spell. It's just going to be tier 2. So are people going to be confused thinking, where's Corpse Explosion 3, bro? You know, like, it's just, these questions need to be answered. I need a way for you to research spells in a meaningful way, because right now it's RNG. So what does it mean to have a grimoire? You know, now that I took out magic tiers, what should the mana costs of these spells be? You know, because I took that out, right? Technically, nothing stops you from putting on, like, the tier 3 armor. You know, you just throw on some temporary things to increase your max mana. Soul bind to your tier armor. You could piggyback, like, hopscotch jump to the best armor. And then just never take it off, because you'll never be able to, you know, you'll have to go through the hopscotching again to put it on. So that's kind of that's what we've been talking about. Yeah, but, okay, so, yeah, we're talking about spell tiers, but what does it mean to, like, neutral, you're always going to have, like, right in the beginning. You could go 5 minutes into the mod, you got neutral essence generate. At an accelerated rate, too, because you're going to be using the Arclight Furnace. So, is it going to be, you know, is it going to be worth it? Like, oh, you know, back here, tier 1 dig, because I finally have advanced, essence generation, and I got the, you know, the ritual to get some dark essence, right? So I think what I need to do is let me do a reload. Let me make sure there are no errors. I think I'm going to put this version of the mod in people's hands. In the supporter chat, I'm gonna drop this in. I'm gonna build it, drop it in, put, like, very basic stuff saying, hey guys, you need to play test this. I'm stuck on grimoires. This is the general flow of the mod now. How can I tie in the grimoire system? What changes need to be made, right? By the way, for the tier 1 essence generation here, you have 1 of 4 neutral spells that you can play with. Thanks, everyone! I mean, you could unlock more, right? Like, you eventually unlock, you know, the Devouring Void and stuff. Yeah, you could throw the higher ciphers in there and start getting random things, but I gotta figure this out. I gotta figure it out. Maybe the solution's the fact that it shouldn't be just like Runic Scroll 1. Maybe you should be able to make different versions. Maybe the Runic Scroll needs to be specific, right? So maybe this becomes like a general spell scroll, right? And then it's the tier 1 general spell scroll. So you automatically can get any of these, doesn't matter what the essence type is. Maybe that's it, I don't know. Looks like there are no errors. There's a couple. Looks like it's just texture asset stuff. That's no big deal. So I gotta head out. Yep. It's getting to be time. This is the latest I've streamed. Let's find someone to raid. While we do that, I'm going to start building this up. Here we go. We're just gonna do a full build. Put it right in there. Ready to play test. I wrote it down in the Discord too. Basically, there could be like 3 different research achievements. Yeah, but we're still working on achievements. Achievements are not telling me if I should have one type of spell cipher, like just Rust Orb, or if I should have Rust Orb 1, 2, and 3. Right? Like, do I still rely on a global spell dictionary to register everything too? Right? What are the components that are going to make up the grimoire? What, you know, if for an enhancement system, should the base grimoire dictate how many upgrade pages you could have? Should the base grimoire dictate the potency of the spell, right? If I put Rust Orb in there, in a tier 1 grimoire that has no upgrades, what does that look like? If I put it in like the ViesCraft grimoire that's got like 10, 12 expansion pages it could have, right? And does it become Rust Orb 3 and get the Rust Orb 3 mana costs and everything? So that's where I need to connect these dots. Not with unlocking things. Like I have a general system here where I'm starting to spell out, you know, like a progression path for unlocking things. Right? And then like beginners, you know, advanced magic schools. I'll probably put mastercrafted schools in there. Right? I think I got that stuff down. I just need to understand how I'm saving this spell data and how I'm manipulating the spell data. Everyone wants me to put in like a grimoire enhancement system, but they also want agency to be able to change any spell's stats. Which one do you want to do? Because if I put an enhancement system in, and then you can configure it to override that enhancement system, well, one of those things are useless. You know what I mean? So how does that spell information look, right? Is it going to be too much because the game's unoptimized? Is it going to be too much to have you build your own spell library, right? Your own registered spell library for your specific stats and increases and stuff? And everyone has their own dictionaries. Like, can the game handle that? I mean, you know, the game craps itself when more than 5 people play on a multiplayer server at the same time. You know what I mean? Like, like is that a feasible option? I don't know. So that's really where this all comes from. I'd hate to put the work in to do something and be like, oh, the game lags horrifically when 2 people are next to each other because, you know, because of all this stuff. I gotta figure it all out. It's tough. Alright, guys, let's find someone to raid. Who do we got? Who am I following? Alright, we're doing it at random. A Fresh World modded. Yep, we're gonna raid this person. Alright, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. Hit me up on Discord /Ray. Here we go. Hit me up on Discord, everyone. Think about it. I need to figure this stuff out. Thank you. Have a wonderful day, everyone. I'll talk to y'all later. We're making progress. Some good conversations today. Thank you. And oh, actually, I didn't have to rush off as much. Must be my neighbors bringing in their garbage cans. But yeah. Just gotta figure it out. I think. Yeah, I'll get the new version of the mod out there. I'll write up a little guide because the guidebook is not updated at all. But the new flow is gonna be. I'll ask people to play test it, and then I'll want the opinions. Right then, give me the feedback. Thank you. Have a wonderful day. Yeah, Dargerly, you came too late. Too late. Thank you. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Talk to y'all later. Bye. Adios. See you later. Bye.